Hi, and welcome to Making Sense of Autism. My name is Staci Neustadt. I'm the CEO, and I'm a speech language pathologist. I have our founder, Susan Golubock, who is an autistic, now retired occupational therapist. And we come to you weekly, usually answering questions. But today I want to dive deeper into a quote Susan recently said, and it is that we need to offer support instead of blame. And that statement really resonated with me because I feel like not only have I done that before, where I look at what my client isn't doing or something that I'm putting it on them versus looking at the support that I could be providing. So, Sue, I want you to dive into that statement that we need to offer support instead of blame.
Everyone in a relationship has expectations of their communication partner, what they expect from them to say, to do. Um, and so much of our response is based on if they don't say or do what we expect. The tendency is to blame them, either what's wrong with you, why aren't you doing it? Um, right away, we make the assumption that they would if they could. And therefore, if they're not, then there's some negative reason why they're choosing to not do so. Um, and that ends up blaming the individual instead of exploring why. Why did you respond that way? That's not what I expected. What's going on? Um, and wondering what's happening and how might I somehow support you if things are off today? How might I help you get back on track? And we do this with our autistic clients a lot because of the inconsistencies in the way their brain works. One day they can, in 1 minute, they can be on target, and then the next minute their brain is exhausted and they just can't do it. And I've seen this working in the classrooms where a child he's working really hard, and the next minute I observe him and he's like spaced out. And I know he's shut down. He's done as much as he can, and now he's shut down. And then the teacher turns around and yells at him, "You're not paying attention." Now he's gotten blamed for not paying attention when really what happened is just his brain went as far as he could, and he just needed some time out, a little bit of a break. And then, of course, he wakes up to the fact that what happened? What did I miss? Uh-oh, now I'm being blamed. I'm the guilty party. I did something wrong, and I don't even know what I did wrong. So we need to, especially with our autistic clients, and we are aware of the fact that neurologically their brain is not always consistent. We can't always expect consistency and certainly not speed of response. We've got to make the assumption if the way they're responding is not what you expect, that maybe something's going on that's preventing them from doing so. They're not deliberately doing it um, by choice. So instead of assuming that they would if they could and they should, but what can I do? You seem a little off. What can I do to help you get back on track? It's as simple as that. Making the offer, you're not doing what I expected. So what's happening? How can I help you get back on track? And a simple offer of that, now the individual is feels, oh yes, I guess I was kind of spaced out. Well, yes, I could use help with this. And they're going to accept your support, and they're going to be eager to get back on track. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it makes me think of that quote from Alfie Kahn of if kids can, they do, which is true. And I think people find that if you ask that why, like, oh, you were working on this and now you stopped, why? What's going on? And if an individual is able to, they might say, oh, I got distracted or whatever, and then it just brings them right back. But you're right, if a teacher just comes and starts blaming, some of our kids go into fight or flight and get defensive or get upset,
Yeah.
and so that's not the reaction they're looking for. So if that's where that compassion comes in, of if you want a response that is going to be understanding and going to be calm, then come in with calmness and understanding of asking, hey, what's going on? And I feel like a lot of the tools that we provide, whether it's the problem solving tool or planning for a task or even the give and take working agreement, all of those supports really provide kind of that framework and that foundation to that success. So there isn't that blame, and it almost kind of helps shift our mindset to every one of those situations of going into it with kind of a different emotion, a different mindset. And I really like that idea because nobody likes to feel blame. I feel like no matter what, it gets people in that fight or flight. And it doesn't matter if it's a level one, level two, level three autistic, they're human beings. And so if somebody is feeling attacked by anything, that is that fight or flight. And so I really like that idea, that mindset shift of coming in with support. And so the example you gave was definitely someone who's probably, level one, level two. What kind of support would you feel like if an individual, say, is level three autistic? And I feel like, again, like across the board, we see a lot of compliance based approaches versus support. But what support would you recommend? So if somebody's seeing, someone's not doing whatever it is someone asked, how would someone go into it with support in those situations with a level three autistic?
And level three, they're not going to be able to tell you what's going on. Um, you're going to have to immediately make the assumption that they need support, i.e., they were slow to process, you used non concrete language. There's so many reasons why they haven't responded. You could play the guessing game all you want, but make the assumption they need support. So the first thing to do is say, and again, you can give them feedback. Okay, um, I was expecting this response and I didn't get it. So therefore, I think you probably could use some help. Let's try this. Does, if I do this, does that help? And you watch their response. When they give you the response they expected, you hit the nail on the head. Now you need to go back and figure out um, the support that you gave will indicate what needed support. So now you're going to have a better clue maybe the next time. Oh, when I slowed myself down and I showed you and then talked to you instead of both, now I can figure out what was going on. So you're just going to try different forms of support until you find one that works. And then you backtrack and figure out what it was that you supported.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that comes back to really understanding the autistic brain. I know a lot of times, as therapists and even, OTs, we call them cues or prompts. And I almost feel like we need to switch that mindset as well to
Mm-hmm.
support. Because I feel like sometimes cues and prompts may be sometimes like giving that answer even.
Hmm.
And so then we're doing all the thinking versus their
Hmm.
executive function and thinking. So shifting that mindset to that, offering that support. So I know as a speech therapist, sometimes it looks like offering a visual of choices or offering verbal choices, some language choices, or even offering like, whoa, the support that you need right now is just to take a minute to have a deep breath. um and I know with OTs, one thing that you've talked about is that motor support, and I forget what you called it because it's an alternative to hand over hand. What was it that you called that motor support that OTs can provide?
It's um, mild resistance, i.e., you got your hand on their hand, but you're not guiding the action. You're adding weight to their movement. And if they start to move in the wrong direction, you can increase the pressure to give them feedback. No, try again. Um, and so when they do it, now they're getting a feel, they're aware of what they're doing, which goes to the motor memory, so they can repeat it without necessarily having that hand over hand resistance, um, that provided them with the sensory feedback they need to do it. But you're not doing it for them. And this is the case, as Staci was mentioning, when you just throw supports at them, to see what happens. You're not methodically thinking, well, let me try this. If it's this, you're not thinking about what could be the problem. You're just throwing a support. And what you're ending up doing is you're teaching the autistic, if I just stay silent long enough, they'll do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got learned helplessness.
And prompt dependency. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So support obviously is multifaceted. And so really what we're talking about today is step one, provide support instead of blame, because blame is going to get oftentimes a triggered reaction, fight or flight. But then the other piece is offering the support that is going to be a safety net and not that hammock to lay in. So something that just helps the individual get to the next step and doesn't do it for them. So again, mindset change and totally a different way of viewing things. But I think really, really important shifts in order to help the individual feel connected and not feel blamed. And then also helping the individual become more interdependent, more independent on doing things on their own. Awesome. Great suggestion, Sue. Thank you.
Thanks, Staci.